Alright, Tanzania. This was actually the very first African country I had ever been to, so not gonna lie, this place has a little bit of a soft spot in my heart. Tanzania is the land of African extremes. You will find some of the biggest, the tallest, the oldest, the most of around here. Yet even more fascinating is how the people of Tanzania have made it their own. Welcome to the king of the Swahili coast.
It's time to learn geography.
Now! Hey everybody, I'm your host Barbs. Oh, what is this? Oh, it's a Tanzania shirt with the flag and the logo thing. Oh yeah, Ruba from the Sudan episode makes these at unityshirtshop.com. If you would like to get one, go to unityshirtshop.com. Support Ruba and her business. And also, shameless self-promotion. You can also get Geography Now merch at geographynow.com. It's not selling out if it's your brand. And as you know, one thing we love to do in these videos, we love to have people from the country in the country episodes. And with that, here is our resident Tanzanian that I found in Los Angeles, Mr. Chaka. Say hi.
Mambo.
Oh, Poa.
Sawa sawa.
Ah, I know that one. All right, so Chaka, very quickly, what are some things you think everybody should know about Tanzania?
Being from Tanzania, we have a lot of everything, and what we do have is in the extremes.
So where does Tanzania fit in? Well, basically, if East Africa was a family,
Ethiopia would be the wise old grandpa that keeps the records of the past.
Somalia would be like the desert merchant with a little bit of an attitude.
Kenya would be the movie star.
Rwanda would be like the super clean and efficient tech nerd.
Burundi is the fraternal twin of Rwanda, begrudgingly wishing they had implemented the same industrial model.
And then we get to Tanzania, the big guy with a powerful yet relatively calm demeanor.
And that's just one piece of the story.
And speaking of which, let's jump into the map now, shall we?
So Tanzania, in some sense, is almost like two countries in one.
In fact, that's how the country got its name. It's sort of like a portmanteau mashup of the names Tanganyika and Zanzibar, Tanzania.
There we go.
There you go.
But how did that happen?
Remember that skit we did in the Namibia episode?
Well, you see those Zanzibar islands. Give me them.
What?
Well, the story doesn't quite end there. See, it was like...
Wait, we didn't agree to this?
Well, you know how things are, right?
Yeah.
So. That was literally the shortest war in human history. Can you two be friends?
Yeah.
Then it was like...
Out of the way, Portugal! About a century before that, it was like,
Out of the way, Amira Killa!
A few centuries before that...
out of the way, native Bantus of these islands that I will also subjugate to the Arab slave trade across the Indian Ocean. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, so much more history involved.
I mean, the Greeks called us Azania, and the Romans called us Zingidium.
Zanzibar and Tanzania are both complicated, but first, let's go to the map and the motion graphic, shall we? First of all, Tanzania is located in East Africa in the Great Lakes region, bordered by 8 other countries and the Indian Ocean to the east. The entire coast of Tanzania, with its islands, along with other parts of Kenya and Mozambique, are often referred to as the Swahili coast due to their historic ties, mostly centered around maritime trade routes that pass through. The country's capital is Dodoma, located close to the heart of the country, and they are further divided into 31 regions or mkoa. The Zanzibar Islands are made up of 5 regions in themselves and are considered autonomous regions. The largest city of the country, however, is just a skip away on the east coast, Dar es Salaam, which means the place of peace. Here you can find the busiest international airport, Julius Nyerere International, and the busiest seaport as well, the port of Dar es Salaam, which handles about 90% of the country's maritime trade activity. After Dar es Salaam, Mwanza on Lake Victoria and Arusha by Kilimanjaro are the second and third largest cities. However, due to the heavy traffic by tourism, Zanzibar's Abed Amani Karume International and Arusha's Kilimanjaro International come in at the second and third busiest airports. The country has nearly an 8,000-mile long network of paved highways known as trunk roads. In addition, the country also has 2,300 miles of rail lines that stretch all the way to the edges of the country and have international access to Zambia and Kenya. As of today, the only territorial dispute they have with another country is Lake Malawi with Malawi, in which Malawi claims that all the shores belong to them, whereas Tanzania is like, really? So I can't even step in the water without falling under your jurisdiction? Pfft, nope. Oh, and there's a place called Mafia Island.
It's actually a nice island. I mean, as long as you don't owe them money, they won't break your legs.
In any case, back to the autonomy thing.
Tanzania's administration is interesting when it comes to Zanzibar.
Zanzibar's autonomy goes pretty far. They have their own government called the Revolutionary Government of Zanzibar.
They have their own president and they even have their own flag.
Overall, the mainland kind of just lets Zanzibar manage their own affairs, only stepping in for major national, diplomatic, and republic constitutional concerns.
On top of that, Tanzania is a huge proponent of the East African Federation.
If enacted and theoretically established, it would make the largest country in Africa Africa area-wise, 10th in the world, and 8th most populous.
And the capital would theoretically be in Arusha, which is already the headquarters of the East African community.
There's a lot of context behind this one. Maybe you should just, make a separate video on it.
You're right, maybe I should.
The country is a constitutional republic dominated by the Chama Pinduzi party.
Basically, in the 60s, many African countries were gaining independence, which was like in the dead heat of the Cold War, and then you kind of know what happened.
Hey Africa, so we Russians never touched Africa. Mostly. And we won't. It's just now that there's those pesky British and French out, how would you like to kind of see how things are run the old USSR way? We've got this state-run system that controls the means of production while utilizing the proletariat. Look into it.
Look, okay, some of this stuff seems kind of cool. Like, I can jam with the whole, one-party power collectivism, but you don't understand how Africa works, and much of this would never fly. So I'm gonna take some notes and, spice it up with my own Africanized blueprint.
This was essentially how Julius Nyerere, the first president, instituted Ujamaa.
Ujamaa is a unique African social ideology that kind of blends the objective of relatively high state control and collective economics and social programs that encourages the population to become one people to combat tribalism.
For example, all the land in Tanzania is government owned and at max leased at 99 years. The state used to have collective ownership of the natural resources.
However, that changed, right?
Yes, it did.
Yeah. Now, many people have opinions on the effectiveness of these policies. Some might say that on a social scale it worked, but economically it needed sprucing up.
But in the end, the point is, Tanzania tried to figure out a way to move forward with an incredibly diverse population.
See, in the late 80s and early 90s, especially under President Mkapa, the country started to open up more free market policies, and that's when the country started to see trends like urbanization and foreign investment growth and so on occur.
You know what, can I tell you something?
What's up?
Benjamin Mkapa is underrated. Took our economy from a fire and put us back on our feet.
Partially due to their amazing places of interest, the country has 7 UNESCO heritage sites. And to explain, here's Tanzanian geography Thabit to explain.
My name is Thabit from Tanzania. If you want to come to Tanzania and visit, I recommend you visit Stone Town in Zanzibar, also Pangani, Bagamoyo. Personal favorite is Kilwa Kisiwani. It has a lot of rich history. Cave paintings in Kondoa. We have museums. There are cultural museums like Bujora in Mwanza, but also there is Maji Museum, which is a resistance museum, village museum in Dar es Salaam, where you can find different way people build houses. Decoration museum in Arusha, and also the Natural History Museum. Tanzania will never bore you. Thank you.
Thank you, Thabit.
Yes, the nature of Tanzania is without a doubt one of the most powerful attributes.
With so much info, let's move into it. In the next segment, So Tanzania is hands down a country of nature. Literally, the movie Lion King was heavily inspired off of Tanzania's landscape.
Let's jump in and see how the physical layout of Tanzania works.
Here's the motion graphic.
Tanzania is located at some of the southernmost sections of the East African Rift, a fault line we've mentioned countless times that slides down into the eastern section of Africa. As you can see, Tanzania is pretty much situated in between the west and eastern rift fault lines, which is why the northeast and central parts of the country have a more distinct arid terrain, as opposed to the otherwise lush green remainder of the country. This fault line is what plays into Tanzania's unique geological makeup, as the East Rift Valley cuts through the northern part of the country, leaving behind a residual geothermal section of land. Here there are mostly dormant volcanoes, however some like the Oldoinyo Langai are still active. But in regards to that, right on the border you can find Mount Kilimanjaro, a dormant volcano, which is not only the tallest mountain in Africa, but it is also the tallest freestanding mountain in the world not part of any range. Some might say it is technically part of the Eastern Rift Range, but come on, look at it, it's a loner. And it is so tall that Kilimanjaro in itself actually has 5 of its own climate zones. Just to skip away, you find the Ngorongoro crater, the world's largest inactive, intact, and unfilled volcanic caldera. Some call it the Garden of Eden, and is home to a huge nature reserve. The East African Rift Fault Line essentially is what creates the 3 great African lakes, all of whom are at least partially within Tanzania. The largest one being Lake Victoria, which is the largest tropical lake in the world, and the 3rd largest freshwater lake by area, followed by Tanganyika, the 2nd largest freshwater lake by depth and volume in the world, as well as the deepest in Africa. And finally, they share part of Lake Malawi in the south. The largest non-shared lake, though, would be Lake Rukwa, located in the south of the country. Now, Tanzania likes to take a little credit for sharing the source of some of the major rivers of Africa, like the White Nile and Congo rivers that have tributaries that are sourced in Lakes Victoria and Tanganyika. However, the longest river fully within Tanzania would be the Rufiji River that drains into the Indian Ocean and creates the largest mangrove forest in East Africa.
A few little extra tidbits. Just on the border with Kenya, up north, you can find Lake Natron, one of the most dangerous lakes on Earth.
The incredibly high alkaline content of the water can burn the skin and the eyes of any creature that goes in it.
This is where Richard Brandt took all those haunting photos of calcified birds that didn't survive the exposure.
I actually want to go to Lake Nature.
I kind of want to go there too, actually.
I mean, we have a volcano that spews out carbon, and it actually fertilizes the ground all around it.
Another one in the Olduvai Gorge, you find magnetic volcanic ash sand dunes that shift about 10 meters every year. And if you throw the sand up in the air, it'll actually clump back together before it falls down rather than spreading out.
Tanzania is also a hotspot for the high-end and opulent products.
Here's Tanzanian geography Shama to explain.
Hello, my name is Shama and I'm from Tanzania. Tanzania is the leading country for the production of sisal, which is used to make ropes. It is the third leading African country for the production of gold after South Africa and Ghana. And speaking about minerals, of course, Tanzania is the country that produces tanzanite. Tanzanite is a blue-violet mineral that is mined in Mererani Hills in Moshi. Beautiful. It is very, very beautiful. It is actually breathtaking. So Tanzania also produces trees such as mpingo tree, a very famous tree that is used actually for carving because of its very hard nature, and which makes it one of the most expensive trees in the world. It's a good place to be. So karibu sana Tanzania. Thank you.
And finally, Tanzania is the largest producer of seaweed in Africa, mostly off the shores of Zanzibar.
Almost all the plantations are tended by the local Zanzibari women that haul in the harvest.
They work hard, they work hard.
And about less than half the population has access to amenities like electricity and clean water.
But that's about to change, because we're building a very big dam at Stigler's Gorge.
And it's going to be the biggest one in Africa.
For a minute, until Ethiopia, with his grand Ethiopian renaissance.
Ethiopia is going to...
Always Ethiopia.
It's always the Ethiopians.
Give us 1 year.
Now, the World Bank classifies Tanzania as a lower middle income economy.
Which is better than just a lower income economy.
And although they still rank low on the global scale, the restructuring policies that transitioned from the Ujamaa command economy to a market economy in the 90s really helped boost their GDP per capita index.
Things like e-finance, mobile banking, services like M-Pesa have completely taken over. But no matter how techy we can become in Tanzania, we will always cherish our crowning glory, nature.
And with that, here's Gary Harlow to explain the wildlife.
Hey there, mateys. Caleb here to do another Gary Harlow segment. There is so much nature to discuss. Nearly every conceivable animal you've heard that comes from Africa is Tanzania. Except for like lemurs, because that's Madagascar. We got Simbas, Rafikis, Zazus, Timons, and Pumbas. When he was a young warthog. Somewhere around 30 to 40% of the country is dedicated to national parks, reserves, and conservation areas. 17 in total. The largest protected wilderness preserve being the Selous Game Reserve. Many of the parks have specialties like the Miserani Park, known for having snakes like the black mamba and the rock python. The Gombe Stream National Park is where Jane Goodall observed chips. However, the most famous world-renowned parks being the Serengeti and the Ngorongoro Crater. You've probably heard of the Serengeti. It hosts the largest mammal migration on Earth, labelled as one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. At 310 species, Tanzania holds about 20% of all the large mammal species of Africa, including the highest population of African lions in the world. And there's over 960 species of birds found here. Very few places on Earth compare to Tanzania when it comes to wildlife. Finally, we've got a fun fact for you. Farmers are known to throw condoms full of chili powder at elephants to ward them off from their crop fields, much like I do on the streets of Los Angeles to approaching females, because I'm married and because I have a daughter. Whoa! She's terrifying! Here's a condom full of chili powder. I'll see you next time. Have a good one, mates.
Thank you, Gary.
I mean, the government bans us from killing elephants, so we have to find what works.
Chili bombs and condoms.
Speaking of crops, Tanzania grows so many good food.
Tanzanians and many other East Africans, for that matter, usually adhere to the flexitarian diet. Many households don't eat meat daily and may reserve meat for maybe a weekly or special occasion meal.
We take tea very seriously. We call it chai, by the way. Anytime is tea time.
When I was there 2 times a day, 10, 4, you drop everything and just do tea.
Exactly. It's good for your health.
It is. Talk more about the food and cuisine of Tanzania. Here is Tanzanian geography Fadil to explain.
Hello, my name is Fadili from Tanzania. In Tanzania, we have so many good dishes. One staple that we use for almost every meal is ugali, which is made by maize or cassava flour. We grow about 20 different types of banana that are used for everything. Soup, dessert, or even just eating them raw. Zanzibar is famous for growing clove nutmeg, and cinnamon. Otherwise, some of top dishes: nyama choma, pilau, mlenda, chips mayai, ndizi nyama, ndizi maharage, wali maharage, ugali samaki, ugali nyama, ugali maharage, Zanzibar pizza. And if you are lucky enough to visit Arusha, there is a delicious dish known as loshoro. I hope you get chance to eat Tanzanian food someday. Thank you.
Thank you, Fadil.
Also, we have the baobab tree, but they have this little fruit. It's kind of like sour, but good. So it's like sweet, but
Tangy,
sour.
sour.
Yeah, very good.
Well, just like the food, the people of Tanzania come in many different flavors and styles. Let's jump in and learn more about them, shallst we? All right, Chaka, how would you summarize a Tanzanian person?
Well, I'd first have to look at the national anthem. Mungu ibariki Afrika. Africans first. You have to realize.
So for you guys, it's more like Africa first before Tanzania even.
Because Tanzania is just a first step. I love Tanzania, don't get me wrong, and we do love Tanzania. But also we realize there's a bigger picture.
Completely unrelated side note, there's a tribe called Hehe. Any whomst, here's the demographics graph. First of all, the country has about 60 million people and is the most ethno-linguistically diverse country in Africa. It is also the only one to have all 4 African language families: Bantu, Cushitic, Nilotic, and Khoisan. The country breaks down to somewhere around 120 ethno-linguistic groups and tribes, the vast majority of which belong to the Bantu group at about 95%. Of these Bantus, the largest tribes and groups are the Sukuma at about 15% of the country, followed by the Hehe/Bena tribe and the Gogo, each at about 4.5%. The Haya tribe comes in next at about 4%, the Nyamwenzi at 3%, and the remainder of the 95% are made up of other groups like the Chaka, Makonde, and so on. Within the remaining 5% of the non-Bantu population, you have mostly Nilotics and Cushitic peoples, such as the Maasai, the Iroquois, the Sandawe, and the Hadza. Finally, about 1% of the country is non-African, mostly Gujarati Indian, a few Europeans, Arabs, and Chinese.
We use the Tanzanian shilling as our currency, and we use the types G and D plug outlet, and we drive on the left. Thank you, Britain.
The country has 2 official languages, English and Kiswahili. However, Kiswahili is far more prevalent than English, and it was a key factor that helped unite the entire nation, let alone much of East Africa, for over half a century.
Today is the official language of 4 countries, recognized in 3, spoken by minorities in 6.
Swahili is a sort of fusion Bantu language, started in Zanzibar that mixed various coastal and island languages. So technically there isn't like an original Swahili people group, although often Zanzibari people are referred to as Swahilis since they kind of started the whole deal. Would you say that's kind of accurate?
I would say that's accurate enough because everyone claims that Swahili started in the town, Mombasa, Malindi, Mtwara, Tanga. Because everyone is like your mama's cooking. In addition, it borrows about 20% of its vocabulary from Omani Arabic.
Basically, in the 60s and 70s, Julius Nyerere and his team were kind of like, okay, so we have over 120 tribes and ethnic groups and we need to communicate, but like in a pan-African format taught at elementary levels that appeals to everyone and not just to the English-educated elite.
Well, the majority of our country is Bantu, so a Bantu language would probably go well. Yeah, we should probably choose one that doesn't cater to any specific tribe, or at least a large tribe, as to avoid a sense of favoritism.
True, okay, Kiswahili. And it pretty much worked. Okay, so there's a joke. All the Tanzanians have told me this. So basically they say Kiswahili was born in Zanzibar, grew up in Tanzania, got sick in Kenya, died in Uganda, and then was buried in Congo.
He said it. I didn't say it.
They're all thinking it.
But he said it. I got nothing but love for you, Kenya. Uganda, Congo, bring it in. Yeah, Umoja. Some Swahili words that you have heard include things like Hakuna Matata, Simba, Rafiki, Safari, Kwanzaa, Jenga.
Religion. Tanzania today is about, give or take, 2/3 Christian and about 1/3 Muslim, with small pockets of animist sprinkled within the runoff of those estimates.
Most of the Muslim community lives on the coast and on Zanzibar Island. Interestingly enough, Islam was not started by the Omanis but by the Persians, and we call them Shirazis.
Now, obviously, as mentioned, there are so many tribes and ethnic groups of Tanzania. We definitely do not have time to go through all of them. Nonetheless, I asked you guys, the Tanzanian geography peeps, to summarize some of the biggest and most well-known tribes in Tanzania, and here are some of the things that you guys said.
The largest group, the Sukuma,
Ooh, it means push.
and the Haya, kind of big shots around Lake Victoria in the north, known for being hard-working agriculturalists.
Many have a long-standing tradition depending on medicine men and dawa, or zoo therapy remedies made from animals and plants around them.
The southern Hehe and the Bene groups are often lumped into one. They, along with the Gogo tribes, are kind of seen as the warriors of the nation.
The Hehe under Chief Mkwawa resisted the German forces for 7 years in Lugalo, and the Gogo tribesmen under Kinjekitile Nwale fought again against the Germans in the Maji Maji War. So I guess you could say when the Germans came, they were like, hey, hey, let's go get them.
The Nyamwezi, who are also known as the people of the moon, are cousins of the Sukuma, and they take part in the trade. Unfortunately, the trade has spilled over into the Arab slave trade.
The Haya tribe was one of the first tribes in antiquity to have forged iron through their own blast furnaces that they invented, and they are kind of known for having lots of people that pursue the higher education fields. Often professors at universities are Haya.
And every Tanzanian will say the Chaka are like the businessmen of Tanzania. They originated around Kilimanjaro, and today when you meet a Chaka, chances are they are involved in some kind of business.
The Makonde, they're kind of known for being like the artists of Tanzania, renowned for their abstract ebony carvings, usually depicting the Shetani or East African mythological creatures.
And we have the main Cushitic group, the Raku, people who live mostly in the Manyara region. And Goruka is kind of like a ruin. The archaeologists, when they saw it, they couldn't understand what it was. And we kept telling them, like, that's the Iraku, they did it.
Then you also get the Nilotic tribes like the Datuga or the Rainmaker tribe, and of course the most famous one, the Maasai. You've probably seen them. They are one of the most widely documented African tribes in international publications. Speaking of which, I have a shuka cloth. I got this when I was in my early 20s because I was trying to be all cultured and stuff.
I mean, look at this. Finally, you have the Khoisan group, the Sandawe and the speculated Hazar tribes.
Yes, they speak with the Khoisan click consonants like the
And some of them live semi-nomadic lives in the bush and maintain their hunter-gatherer traditions and lifestyles.
And just a little shout out to the Meru tribe, the one that I was staying with when I visited. They are located at the base of Mount Meru. They are super nice people and they're huge on fruit cultivation. The best mangoes and bananas I ever had in my life came from the Meru tribe.
The Meru people are good people.
So anyhow, those are some of the largest, most well-known groups of Tanzania. If there's any more that we didn't mention, please write them in the comments. Otherwise, we have to move on. It's a lot to mix. But one thing they do like to mix is at a crowd at a sporting event. So with that, here's Art with the sports part.
All right, Tanzanian sports. So, like most East African countries, Tanzania is renowned for their participation in long-distance running events. Some long-distance runners, like these people, are national icons. To this day, they have 2 Olympic silver medalists that won the men's 5,000-meter run and 3,000-meter steeplechase events in the 1980 Moscow Olympics. They should have gotten gold. I give them a Tanzania. And of course, no shocker, soccer or football is super popular with everyone. All you need to know is the Kariakoo Derby. This is what they call the huge rivalry between the 2 largest teams. Will it be the Yanga or the Simba? Hey, where's my Simba? Not Savannah! Also, fun fact, Oklahoma City Thunder's Hashim Thabit was the first Tanzanian person drafted in the NBA. Otherwise, in February, Tanzania holds the Kilimanjaro Marathon. It's a triathlon that involves a bike race around the entire mountain, a trek up the mountain, and finally a proper marathon. That's a ton of cardio. And finally, we can't end this segment without mentioning the Maasai Olympics. It's held every 2 years. They compete in 6 events that traditional Maasai warriors were known to partake in. Rungu sticks being the traditional wooden club weapon used by herdsmen, mostly to kill snakes and other creatures that threaten their cattle, so they murder things that murder. They made it into a game. That's it for me, everybody.
Thank you, Art. Yeah, considering what natural wonders the country offers, it's no shocker that Tanzanians definitely get their fair share of outdoor activities.
Some of which also play into our personal traditions and customs.
And with that, here's Random Hannah to explain a little bit more.
Hey everyone, I'm back. Fireball. Because why not? And remember, you can get a Random Hannah t-shirt at geographynow.com. So first off, tradition. Like many other African nations, Tanzania is home to quite a few tribal chiefdoms and small kingdoms. For example, this guy has been king of the Sukumu tribe since 1978. Tribal or clan exogamy, or marrying outside your tribe or clan, has become much more common in the past half-century. One common custom that many of them share, however, is the dowry, or bridegroom price. Usually this involves a negotiation of things like money or livestock. And you guys know that I love cow dowries. It is somehow a passion of mine.
What dowry did you get for your wedding, Hannah?
I got a husband, that's it.
Oh.
It's a pretty good one. Much of the folklore, poetry, and proverbs were passed down through oral tradition. However, after transliterating Swahili into script, written literature saw a steady rise. This guy, Shaban Robert, is considered father of Swahili literature and was born in Tanzania. Peter Palangio's Dying in the Sun is considered to be one of the most compelling works of modernism in African writing. In addition, Zanzibar-born novelist Abdul Razak Gurnar won the 2021 Nobel Prize in Literature. Tinga Tinga, which is this, is named after the founder Edward Said Tinga Tinga. It's the national style of artwork, originating from Oyster Bay, known for its bold, colorful, surrealistic, warped, and often flamboyant depictions of humans and animals. And speaking of art, Zanzibar has a whole other thing going on. They are famous for their elaborately carved doors and Arab-style chests with secret hidden compartments.
It was featured on season 29 of The Amazing Race, which I am totally applying for. Hope you guys, the producers, see my audition tape. Ooh.
Going off of that, Tanzania has quite a unique film industry, sometimes referred to as Swahili wood or Bongo wood. And if you want to learn more about the culture and traditions and art in Tanzania, you can follow my YouTube channel, Random Hannah.
Typical dance that Hannah does. Hannah has a spin off.
I almost fell off this thing. Many of their films are featured at the Festival of Dhow Countries that features African cinema and art. Other major festivals that occur include, but are not limited to, Children's Day, Unification Day, Wanyambo Festival in January, the Karibu Travel and Tourism Fair, the Mwaka Kogo Festival in Zanzibar, they burned a straw cabin to start things off, and the Swahili Culture Festival. Speaking of which, much of the Swahili language is perpetuated by its heavy use in modern music. Which brings us to Keith's music segment! I'm gonna leave now, because I can't handle this. Glitter bomb.
What's up, everybody? It's me, Keith. So, Tanzania is a powerhouse when it comes to music in Africa, especially the Swahili world. Every Swahili singer knows the famous song Malaika, which was written in Tanzania. So, first off, with over 120 ethnic groups, there's a lot of traditional styles and dances and instruments and so on. For example, the Zaramo tribe has their own version of the hand piano, or ilimba. The Gogo people are known for playing the zeze. The Mara people are also known for playing the litingu, and some of the Sukuma people are known for playing the ligombos, or trough zither. Also, you can find a lot of these instruments throughout East Africa in their own shape, form, different things, yeah. In Tanzania, songs can get very political. If the president is doing a good job, artists will make praise songs, and if the president is actually doing a really shitty job, he'll get the protest songs and everybody will want to burn everything down. The late President Magufuli had tons of songs written in his honor after he died. Otherwise, from the 1960s to the 80s, Tanzania was noted for its distinct African rumba music style that brought out tons of classic artists like these people. Check out this list, it's huge! After the 80s, they switched up their political and economic model to a free market, which allowed a ton of new genres to pop up. Fun fact, Zanzibar was actually mentioned in a Tenacious D song.
Zanzibar?
Yeah, you never...
There's one line in the song.
Yeah.
That's how you remember it.
That's how I know Zanzibar. I'm like, oh, Zanzibar. In Zanzibar, you'll probably find more Tarab music, which is like a fusion of Arab, Indian, and Latin European influences all combining together to make this really awesome sounding music. But the one style of music native to Tanzania that everyone loves is Bongo Flava. Created in the 1990s, as described by the Bongo Flava website, the sound has its roots in rap, R&B, and hip-hop that came from America but has been pulled apart and put back together with African hands. Most of Bongo Flava is performed in Swahili with a mixture of either English or native languages. Some of the most notable Bongo Flava artists are these guys. And of course, all of you guys wanted us to mention Diamond Platnumz. This dude is really blown up in the Bongo Flava scene, super famous, not just in East Africa, but in the entire world. That's it for me, guys. I'm Keith. Go. Bananas. Go, go, bananas. I'm bananas.
Thank you, Keith. And you totally forgot about Freddie Mercury, born in Zanzibar. Oh.
Have you guys forgotten about Kwasa Kwasa?
What is Kwasa Kwasa?
Kwasa Kwasa, it's like a Rumba, all in the hips.
I have seen that when I was in That's Kwasa Kwasa?
That's Kwasa Kwasa.
So there you go. Quite the profile for East Africa's quiet powerhouse nation.
But we're not quiet. We talk to the rest of the world. We have friends.
You have stuff to say.
A lot.
So modern history has given Tanzania quite the advantage of building diplomatic relations abroad because of all the maritime trade that they were based off of.
We have a long-term Indian Ocean trade, so this is not recent.
So let's look at the motion graphic to see how it plays out.
First of all, outside of Africa, both India and China are kind of competing for Tanzania's affection. For one, not only is India their largest export partner, but Tanzania has had historical ties to India for centuries and is home to a large community of Indians, mostly Gujaratis. Indian influence has not only creeped its way into Tanzanian culture in things like food, but also a large portion of the businesses in Tanzania are owned by Indians. And many notable Tanzanians of Indian descent have become celebrities, athletes, government officials, and so on. India sees this and loves it because it kind of solidifies a bond between them. Whereas China comes in and says, hey, not only am I your biggest import partner, but also I have roots here too. Chinese people have been coming in mostly since the 1930s, and we've been one of the biggest investors in your infrastructure development in things like railroads and stadiums. There was a little controversy though in recent years when China deliberately had to crack down and arrest quite a few of their own people in Tanzania that were convicted in taking part of the illegal ivory trade. But overall, good relationship with China. Otherwise, their former colonial power, the British, generally now have amicable ties. The UK is the largest foreign direct investor and the top country for tourist visitors. They are also obviously the top purchaser of Tanzanian tea, and today many Tanzanians either have family in the UK or they study abroad in the UK. If we're talking about their closest friends though, we have to bring it back to the African continent. For one, they are kind of like the link between the EAC and the Southern African Development Community, or SADC. At one point, Tanzania really pushed for the East African Federation to become a unified nation state, but there was some skepticism amongst some of the members, Uganda, and after that incident fizzled out, they kind of turned their heads south. And that's when you see Tanzania really getting involved. Not only were they a founding member of SADC, but virtually every independence movement in the Southern African states were somehow affected or assisted by Tanzania. Hell, Zambia even shares the same national anthem as Tanzania. In the end though, the EAC neighbors, or the Swahili siblings, will always have a somewhat closer spot to their hearts. Despite the brief 8-month-long war with Uganda, they've been tight with everyone in the Great Lakes region. In addition, many of them share tribal or ethnic groups across the borders. They all share a trade bloc, a duty-free common market, common customs procedures for inter travel, and so on. If we're really gonna narrow this down though, some might say Kenya is kind of like the flashy brother of Tanzania. It has a more prosperous economy and developed industry, yet Tanzania doesn't feel threatened or jealous. They're happy to see Kenya getting some spotlight, and if anything happens, they will be there for them through thick and thin. Also, Kenya will never have Kilimanjaro, so it's kind of like they already won anyway.
In conclusion, Chaka, you're the Tanzanian. I say you take it away.
Let's go with Tanzania. In conclusion, Tanzania knows its worth and value to the continent. Very confident in who we are. We don't have to brag. Kenya can be the movie star. Let them be. But we know who we are. We have Kilimanjaro.
Thank you, Chaka, for being in this episode. Stay tuned. Thailand is coming up next. That's going to be a big one.
Sawadee Hab.